Welcome to the Growing Relationships podcast. I'm your co host Leah, somatic feminine leadership coach and trauma reprocessing facilitator.
And my name is Frederick. I work with leadership development. I'm also the founder of the men's group Transformation Within.
And in these conversations, we will explore how to make sense of yourself and your partner in the dance of romantic relationships.
How are you today?
I'm amazing. I feel amazing today. Oh, I'm amazing. No, you don't say I'm amazing. Say I feel amazing. Sorry.
You are amazing as well.
I'm amazing. That's very modest.
We've come to episode number 4, and we said that the topic for today's talk would be trust in intimate relationships. Give us some context to this topic and relationships, so we get sort of an entry door to the conversation.
I love this topic first because trust for me as an Enneagram type 6, and I don't know if the listeners are familiar with Enneagram. I highly encourage them to take the test just to get some guidance on their development path. Yeah. But 6 is very much rooted in the fear. So they say that everything that 6 does is out of fear, basically. And when I learned that, I was like, wow, that's me. And so trust is a big, big topic for me.
My wife is a 6, so I'm quite familiar with the fear-driven behaviors.
It's not easy to live with a fear-driven pattern, but let's put it this way. How would you define trust?
Well, when I first thought about the topic, I came from my, shall we call it, day job of leadership development, where we talk about trust. And then I tried to reframe it to think about trust in intimate relationships. And I would probably say something similar. That is the foundation to make a relationship work over a long time. And we enter relationships, at least with the intention of making it last long, but not necessarily explicitly discussing trust. In the case of my wife and I, who's been together for 22 years, the trust topic only came up after a couple of years as we were starting to sort of rub against each other. And then, lately, when I got into more of the work of David Data and Wineland, etc., I have more nuance and more flavor to what trust means. And I can see it from the masculine perspective. And that actually clarified a lot of stuff for me and sort of deepened my understanding of how I can gain the trust of my wife or the feminine. And I could also see patterns in her. In retrospect, now interpret them as either bids for me trusting or requests for me stepping up so she can trust.
Yeah, because it seems that trust for men is so important, or their partners trust their masculine, right, and their leadership. More important than in feminine. Feminine has different needs, like to be seen and known and felt and connection. That's mostly. But it seems that for the masculine, being trusted or not being trusted can be the biggest.
But I think we have to be careful with saying it like that, that trust is a bigger thing for the masculine. I think it's equally big, but it has different expressions and expectations for the feminine and the masculine.
Yeah, I was thinking about that a lot this morning. And what I found in me was I think trust for me is this sense of safety in my body and in my mind body system where I have the knowing that the other one is going to be there no matter what. No matter if I age, if I'm not beautiful anymore, or if I'm angry, if I'm rageful, if I'm sad, if I'm whatever, all my stories that come up, the trust that he's going to be there. Yeah, hold my hand or not leave. And that brought me to the thought that trust can be, because my biggest wound is abandonment. Yeah, then I find trust when I see the evidences, and this happens in time in partnerships, that he's not going to leave me. He's not going to leave the relationship, the connection, the container. And I thought maybe we build trust in different ways according to our needs or according to our biggest wounds.
But I think what you're saying now is universal for the feminine, meaning that the trust is developed when you feel that the masculine can hold space for whatever is, and that they have the capacity to stay strong and, be that container that we talked about in the last episode,
Mm.
that the man will not crumble just because you have a bad day, or as you say, you age, or you are, whatever it could be.
Mm. Mm.
That that whatever happens, my man is standing strong and can hold space for me.
That's a good point. I just see it happening moment by moment. It's not just one thing. It's more things, like more, especially it happens in conflict.
Yeah.
Can I trust that I can be myself? I can be
Mm.
myself. I can express everything that I feel and everything, my inner, what is going on for me, my inner world, and you'll still be there. And you can, it depends on what the masculine does, what's the pattern of the masculine, collapse or leave. And I have this experience and this history with leaving, partners that leave. That's why for me, it's important for them to, bring evidence that they don't leave. This is how I build actually trust.
Yeah.
That's one thing. And the other thing I was thinking is like, as Enneagram Type 6, I start relationships, I used to more less and less now, with a lack of trust, right from the bat.
Yeah.
And that's very unknowing. It's very subconscious. And yet it's like expect men to prove themselves that they are trustworthy. And then we all know if we start a partnership or relationship like this from this space, we'll just find evidence over and over to feed that narrative. And I was thinking this morning, going back to my thought, is how important actually to pay attention to where is my story here and what is my blueprint?
Yeah.
Where is me projecting here?
And you're touching on two things here, I think. One is your trust in yourself, and then there's the trust in a partner.
Moreover, like trusting myself, trusting my partner, trusting universe slash source slash God, whatever resonates with people.
Yeah.
And trusting myself. Yes, trusting myself. It's a very big point. Trusting myself that I can do whatever it needs to be done so that the relationship thrives, or maybe I need to leave the relationship, the connection. Can I trust myself that I can do that? And when I have that trust developed in me, then I can step into a partnership with this discernment that I'm here, I'm sober, and moment by moment I can see what happens, have this discernment, and then reorient from each and every step instead of starting from the beginning with I don't trust, or his leadership is not trustworthy.
And maybe you haven't done it, but also there are also women who start from a point even further backwards, which is starting from a point of testing. Can I trust?
Oh yeah, I've done it big time. This is what we do when we have this blueprint. We start to test men in very direct and indirect ways just to find that evidences that he is trustworthy. But guess what? As I said, like, we will always find evidence that he is not, actually. And what I learned, because I was so passionate about how I function and all my patterns, and I got into 5 personality patterns and somatic work and core energetics and everything. And I found that actually that's a rigid pattern that we hold deeply in our system. And it's rooted in being raised in a very rigid environment, like church, for example. Church says what church says, you have to do it. I don't know how it is in your religion, and I don't even know what's your religion, but in Orthodox, what I grew up with, Orthodox is very strict and very like, you will burn in hell whatever you do. If you have good food, you'll burn in hell. If you drink, if you smoke, if you have intimacy, if you sleep on Sundays, basically it's very punishing, and you have to make a lot of sacrifice. And it's like it's a very rigid, I guess, like every other religion. And when you grow up like this, and with this, then we disconnect as young children. We disconnect from our body and we orient outwards, and we rely on those rules because this is what brings us a sense of belonging and a sense of safety. So our work now, and some of us do more than others. That's why, because it's a spectrum. There is a less rigidity, people who are more flexible, and there are a higher degree on the spectrum. And for us, it's important to connect actually to go back and down and in into our body and feel our body literally and disconnect from getting our needs met from the outside world and this sense of validation maybe or whatever we need and yeah, connect to our senses and to our inner world. And this is how we develop trust in ourselves as well.
So you said you don't even know what my religion is.
Yeah.
In Sweden, the religion is atheism, but I can see the pattern describing also in Sweden. So I don't think it has to do with religion per se, but it has to do with rigid boundaries,
Yes.
which we touched on a previous episode.
Yeah.
And now, because as soon as there are rigid boundaries, they become fragile because as a child, we want to explore, we want to test. And if there's a big punishment with breaking a boundary,
Right.
we disconnect from ourselves. When we are punished for just being who we are, and it's natural to explore boundaries. So I think in order to develop that sense of safety in ourselves, we have to grow up in an environment with flexible boundaries, and ideally where the parents can guide us around to what degree we can flex around these boundaries,
Mm.
so they can grow with us and help us to build trust in ourselves.
Yeah.
And I feel that I've been very lucky in that sense. I have great parents, and they've been my guide as I try to orientate myself towards adulthood, and then eventually stepping into it.
Mm. Lucky you.
Yeah.
I just wanted to mention that we are trained almost because we relate so much to the outer rules in a way, like what's okay and what's not okay, that we our focus and our energy goes into looking for what is not working.
Yeah.
That's very important. And when you look into what's not working and want to fix it because it's not perfect, it's not according to the outer rules, and it's just a habit. And this is how we translate this with testing and being with in partnerships as well, that we don't look at what is flowing and what is working. We go with our attention, we put our attention on what is not working and wanting to fix our man, fix our partner, fix the relationship. At least from what I'm noticing in my case, it's just a habit that you can train over and over to whenever you feel yourself, catch yourself doing that. Also, there is body work and psychic work and whatever. But just to train yourself to put your focus and energy on what is actually working and what I can appreciate about my partner. And this is how you build trust as well.
We are digressing slightly, but because of the way I interpret what you're saying is that the reason for the rigid pattern and the looking for what's not working is that you grew up with an idealist picture based on the church, how things should be. So there's very an idealist way of how
Mm-hmm.
life should be, a relationship should be, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So my thought then was, we have that without church as well. And we tend to build up an idealist way of how a relationship should be, thanks to or through the curse of Walt Disney. We're fed with this rom-com series and the Disney series, etc., about somewhere out there's the perfect one. And if you can only find the perfect one, you will live happily ever after. Which I guess also contributes to this idea that there is an ideal way. And when my partner doesn't measure up to my
Mm-hmm.
projection of what it should be, then it's difficult to
Yeah, I agree. This is how perfectionism is born.
yeah.
Yeah, I remember John Gottman saying that the moment you start thinking that I could have someone better, I could be better or better off without this partner, then you're screwed in your relationship. To build trust, it takes commitment to love your partner and to love your partner's nervous system and to stay present, not just stay, but stay present with your partner when they are going through something uncomfortable, or and instead of saying, oh no, she again with her whatever she's alive for her, not again this negativity, just actually to stay there and ask, how can I help you, baby, today? What would soothe your pain? This is how you build trust, when you stay.
And then hoping that my partner is willing to dance with me in that conversation and not just closing down.
Yes, because you need to have the dance.
I think another trap we fall into is to believe that love is a noun. Love is a verb. My lens on love over the years has been that a lifelong relationship is not lifelong love, it's a lifelong commitment. And then you create love on the way. You have to decide. And then you have to take love as a verb and create the opportunities to get that feeling as often as possible. But if the relationship is based on having that feeling of love all the time, then it's going to be very difficult to make it last.
Yeah. It feels like we can close the session already.
No, not yet, because I think we have another perspective on trust to discuss. Because we started talking quite a lot about the feminine and what the feminine needs in order to feel trust for the masculine. So, what about if we take the other perspective? What does the masculine need from the feminine
Ooh,
to trust?
tell us.
I can give it a try. Like we discussed in previous episodes, the masculine is very much about direction. It's about the leadership, about protecting and providing, and that safe container within which the feminine can bloom. And I think for the man, it's very important to feel respected in taking the direction, to feel that the woman has trust in his ability to
Mm,
protect, provide, taking sound decisions, and feel that he is supported in his
mm,
attempt to be the man he wants to be and would like to be for his woman.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. Like your words, I don't know, it landed so deeply in my field and in my body. Oof, respect, such it's a huge topic. Respect for men and for the masculine. I coached quite a bunch of women that really crave to be worshipped and cherished in their partnership.
Yeah.
And when I ask them, do you respect them, your partner? All of them say yes at first. But when we go deeper, what we find is that they actually don't have much respect for the masculine in general because of their fathers not being providers or not being emotionally or physically present. And as I'm speaking, I have chills because respect, I know respect is a big thing. And it's so many times, it's so unknowingly driving the sheep, so to say, in relationships for women. And it's hard for them to acknowledge and see on the surface.
Yeah.
When deep underneath, they actually don't respect men in general, the masculine, let's put it this way.
Yeah, I think we have to be, for the listeners who haven't listened to episode number 3, where we dissect masculine and feminine, I think we have to say that we are not equating masculine with men and feminine with women. All of us have both energies in our own unique mix. But for the ease of conversation, we sometimes tend to use men when we mean masculine and women when we mean feminine. But to be strict with the language, we're talking about masculine and feminine energy, and all of us have both.
It's important, yeah.
Yes, and I think, the way to really erode the masculine is to constantly criticize, override, question his attempt to lead, provide, and protect.
Equal, not trusting.
Yeah, equal, not trusting. Exactly. Because you end up in a situation where the masculine cannot feel safe in his attempt to provide what he would like to provide, and then end up resigning. There's no point that I try because I'm being criticized. I'm doing it the wrong way at the wrong time. So I just give up. And that creates a vacuum, which further frustrates the feminine because the feminine can then not find space to deepen.
Yes. I see it sides or at least work with my clients, women, feminine beings, women that identify as women. When they come to me into my container and we work on it, we work on two sides. First, to find again respect for the masculine in themselves, like reconciliate with the masculine in themselves. And second, to open and drop into their femininity so that they can receive, so that they can teach their nervous system how to receive. Because if they cannot on a body level, yeah, on a somatic level, if their nervous system doesn't have this experience, how it is to be open and fully receiving, it doesn't matter how much a man will try, they won't succeed. So they basically they set them for fail.
And for the man, the highest desire for a man, for the masculine, is that the feminine can just surrender to the masculine's leadership. For men, that's a sign that I am trusted, I am valuable, I feel that I can fulfill my masculine role.
Mm.
So I don't have to battle the masculine in my female partner.
And we have to be careful with the word surrender because it's not to him. right? Like to a
No.
man. It happens when you, as a woman, surrender to yourself. You trust so much to yourself, trust in yourself, trust the source,
Yeah.
that letting him to take lead, it's not threatening.
Yeah.
And it's not to be said that only the man, because I think that's a misconception as well, that only the man has to lead. No, you can exchange, you can change, not exchange, you can change when it's needed, but when it's not needed, it's good to have this capacity and awareness to step back and let him lead.
Very good clarification. And absolutely. Now we are maybe a little bit lazy with the expression because I said man and the woman to surrender.
Mm.
I meant the female surrender to the masculine. And in the same way that the woman can step more into the masculine and lead the relationship, there's a desire for men to drop down in the feminine and be allowed to be emotional, nurturing, ride the wave of what's going on for them, being held by the masculine in their woman.
It's just like I think I imagine that degrees like would be, I don't know, 70 to 30 or something.
Maybe.
Well, I mean, if it works for both, for the woman to be more in the masculine and hold the man, and for the man to be held so that he's always in his always, I mean, 70% in his feminine, in his emotion, connected to nature, what dancing, nurturing. It's okay.
We have to generalize for the sake of making a point. So I think it's fair to assume that men are possibly 70% masculine energy and 30% feminine and vice versa. But of course, everybody's unique.
Mhm. So, going back to trust, how do we actually build trust in relationships?
It starts with communication, being able to talk about what's going on for me, what is going on for us, what is happening to me when you do what you do. I think it must start with communication.
Mm.
And unfortunately, there's a tendency to down prioritize communication because we get so caught up with the practicalities of life, especially during the years of small kids, where conversations are mostly about family logistics and changing diapers, and then a few years later dropping at soccer practice and so on. And I think consciously making space for the partnership, even if the family is bigger, and create space for those just one on one dropping down into deep conversation. That's crucial because there will come a point when the kids are out of the nest and then you're standing there, have not really communicated for maybe 18 years, and you have a long way back to find what you had when you first met.
Wow.
And then I guess comes the question, how do we communicate? And to what degree is the masculine and feminine within me communicating? And to what degree is the masculine and feminine in me communicating to your masculine and feminine? So how can we balance the needs, given that we all have a unique mix of these two energies?
Well, I love what you say. And communication is listening to David Data. It's just the second stage you have to master. But when it comes to the feminine expression, it's less words. It's communication through the body. It's subtle communication as well, which we women nobody teaches us. We are very much stuck in either in our the four horsemen of apocalypse, if you know them.
Yeah.
Just for the listener, the four horsemen of apocalypse is the patterns that we go into when we are triggered. And the first one is contempt, then stonewalling, defense, criticism. Or if we're skillful enough, we do all of them.
And the thing is, we all have all of them, but we tend to have one that where we instinctively go.
Right. So we are very much stuck in the communication level in words. But there is a third stage, which is not me and you speaking on a table, around a table, on a table. Not, not, sorry, you have to cut.
On the third level, we connect on the table.
On the second stage, which is we negotiating from our minds. But the next stage is we communicate in subtle ways. We communicate from our hearts as well, which maybe we need less words. So I love that you bring communication because communication can be different.
And I think we're saying there is where it gets really interesting, because a lot of this third level communication, a lot of that is lost in translation between the feminine and the masculine. And I think that's true both when it comes to the feminine and masculine inside of me, as I have both energies, and the feminine and masculine in a couple. Because the masculine communication is very clear, straightforward, so we're aiming at something. And
Hmm.
then you have the flowing, subtle communication of the feminine. So, as a man, being primarily in my masculine energy, it's very hard for me to interpret what is the feminine trying to tell me. I mean, the feminine inside of me. I can sense
Mm.
stuff going on. It's very difficult for my masculine energy to interpret that. What does it mean? What do I need to do? What's the direction? So that's sort of challenge number one. And then challenge number two, in a couple where the feminine is communicate from a third level, it's very challenging for the masculine to sense what's going on and make something out of it. So I think the masculine there really had to nurture their feminine energy so they
Right.
can understand what's going on here and how can I
Yeah.
sense what the feminine in my partner wants, and then maybe I can respond from the masculine. But I need the feminine energy to be matured to sense what's going on.
Right. To feel, yes. And women need for men to feel them,
Yeah.
because so many times men try to fix and they are analytical about what women feel. And I was
Yeah.
like, I just feel this. Can you just be here and not try to fix my experience, emotional experience?
And that what you just said is pointing back to the essence of mature masculinity, the ability to just hold without being
Mhm.
entangled in what's
Yeah,
going on.
right. I was thinking about how to build trust in a partnership, yeah. But it can also be available for friendships, for any type of close connection. Is that when you are generous for each other's nervous system, yeah, you care and you choose to have their best interest at heart. So in the moment when your partner goes through something emotionally challenging, what would be something that would require for you not to collapse, not to leave, not to contempt, be defensive, but just to be there and love them the way they need? This is how you build trust.
Yeah, and I think that's a practice. So in the men's work I do, we have embodiment practices in order to ground ourselves and be able to hold what is.
Mm-hmm.
And through this practice, we can then go out there and face the world, being more comfortable being uncomfortable, because we have become more tuned to our nervous system and we have built capacity for holding more.
Right.
And I think in a situation where the woman or the feminine comes to us and has some type of challenge, issue, emotional storm going on, if the woman can hold that in a sense of not directing the frustration to the partner, then the masculine can quite easily hold it. The big challenge is when the emotional storm, and it may be completely unrelated to the partner, but everything is projected on the partner. And
Yes.
then to stand strong and just hold, that's when it becomes challenging.
Yes, that's such a good point, because there are so many teachings out there for women, teaching them how to connect to their emotions and just express them.
Yeah.
But when you do that in a very uncontained, unfelt, because what it is, this dumping, is it means that you don't feel these feelings actually. You are emotional, but you are not embodied. You're not feeling those feelings, and then you dump everything on your partner, and it's very hard for anyone, I guess, to digest that and hold that, and that's almost violent to the nervous system of the other person.
It is. It is. And if it's very emotional and very, very strong feelings, that tends to come words with this as well. And
Mm,
since the masculine is much more literal, the masculine tends to cling to those words. Well, you said that, you said that. And then the woman may respond in a more calmer moment. Yeah, but I didn't mean it. It was just emotions. But
mm,
that's hard for the masculine to understand. The masculine needs emotional congruence.
mm,
That was what creates trust and safety for the masculine.
mm.
You touched on something there that is a bit of a pet peeve of mine, actually. The confusion between emotionally expressive and emotionally intelligent. That's not the same thing.
Yeah.
The way I see it is that you can be emotionally overexpressive or you can be emotionally underexpressive, but
Yeah.
neither is emotionally intelligent. Emotional intelligence is to be able to hold your emotions, interpret them, see what's lying underneath them, and then communicate what you feel in a respectful way. Unfortunately, there seems to be a lot of thoughts out there that be having emotional intelligence is to be able to talk about your emotions and being like an open book. And that pisses me off, to be honest. It's
Yeah,
ignorant.
I totally understand. I don't agree either, because that's making someone else responsible for what you feel. But it's our task to look inside and see, okay, what that's brought up in me. And you're right when you say about there's a spectrum. Basically, how do we women, how do we relate to our own emotional body? And then on the spectrum, there is this low spectrum, which women repress out of the fear to not to be, I don't know, too much maybe, or to be rejected. And then they build resentment. And on the other hand, is women who just
Yeah.
they dump everything and expect men to hold them. And the healthy is in the middle. The healthy level is in the middle, where we digest, feel our emotions, as you said, and then express whatever is true.
And the path for women to integrate this is to deepen the feminine so they can truly feel
Mhm.
in their body what's going on for them, and then mature the masculine in them so they can hold whatever comes out of that.
Yes. For the feminine, so funny because I just finished a 3-day free feminine somatic quest on Telegram, and it was very rich. And for 3 days, I dropped this kind of teachings in the group and two practices, somatic practices. Just drop a comment if you are curious and interested, and I will bring you into the group so that you can have a chance to have a deeper sense of what we're talking about from the feminine perspective. It's huge and it's very transformational.
Urge all the women I know to give it a try. And for all the men out there who want to explore their masculine and feminine energy, please check out my group Transformation Within, where we have 2 calls a week to have a conversation about how we show up in the world and explore what's holding us back, and then learn how to deepen our relationship to ourselves and others.
I love that. And just for the last piece for this conversation, how would we measure trust in our relationships? Because at my core, I'm an agile coach, you know that. And in agility, you have metrics. And if we take trust, what would be metrics for trust?
I didn't expect that question from somebody who's so embodied in the feminine. I think trust can be measured in the quality of conversation. To what degree do I dare to show up as I am in a conversation and trusting that my partner will hold that? And in a situation with a low level of trust, I guard myself. I can't express this idea. I can't show up like this. I have to be careful how I put this, or my partner might explode, get aggressive, withdraw, whatever it is.
Mm.
So intuitively, I would say,
And how would you know you have quality conversations? There'd be less conflicts, for example.
yeah, less conflict, or at least constructive conflict, because you can still disagree, but you have a way of talking about it in a way that there's mutual understanding.
Mm.
I'm not so interested actually in how to measure trust. I drop into my feminine there and say, I would feel it. I would feel, can I be true to myself? Can I be authentic in
Mm.
my conversations? And if I, as long as I can answer yes to that, okay, there's trust enough. And then maybe that can deepen further. But, you know,
Because I was thinking, how could I know that we have trust or we improve on trust? Very concrete metrics for trust can be in my world can be hugs, the number of hugs that you have a day, or kisses or whatever.
yeah, but then I would argue that we need to factor in the quality of those hugs and kisses. Is it the hugs where you sort of let your stomach go and you embrace and you sort of the bodies meld together? Or is it the one when you pass each other in the kitchen and just a quick? So I think we cannot escape the quality aspect of such a metric.
Okay.
And then the fact that you are pushing this topic makes me wonder about your six, your Enneagram 6,
Yes.
and the fear of being abandoned. Shall we conclude this conversation?
Yeah, that was a good one. Yeah. So I think as a conclusion, trust would be the sum of what are the gains for us both as a couple. That would be even a step further if we take it from quality of anything.
Can I trust that you will do your utmost to serve what we have together?
And can I trust that you'll keep your word, walk your talk, and do what you said you will do?
And that's directed to the masculine. Walk the talk and do what you said you would do. And then directing that to the feminine, can I trust that you are emotionally congruent? Can I trust that you communicate clearly so that I, in the masculine, can understand when I'm doing things right and when I'm doing things wrong?
I love that.
Thank you. We just have to wish our listeners a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And we're
Happy
looking forward to continue the conversation in 2025.
Happy holidays. Da, 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 da.